Hey guys, it is Rapmark here. So, more on the backlog. So, we are doing John Wick Chapter 4 today. So, this movie was an absolute blast to me. This movie was almost perfect in a lot of ways of what I was expecting like this to end at cuz after chapter 3 Parabellum it didn't really do much, but at the same time, uh, the fourth one, it actually moved the plot along, it moved the story along, and things kind of got resolved in what I think is a satisfactory way. The action was great. The performances were amazing from everyone. Um, the only thing that I would say goes against this film for how I see it is it was a little long. I think they could have trimmed some stuff out, and and there are three instances. I'll bring those up in spoilers, where it's just like it felt just a little too over the top. Um, and honestly, but aside from that, I thought this was an amazing film. Uh, I'm not going in for hyper realism because obviously, you have like Kevlar suits and stuff. That's just, no, I'm all set for a certain amount of ridiculousness. Uh, there were just a few times where it just went a little too far. Um, but yeah, speaking of performances, Keanu Reeves did amazing. Donnie Yen is in this as a Kane. Just absolutely amazing performances by both of them. The main bad guy is just like, eh, and I'll get that more into spoilers. The main bad guy wasn't anything special. Like a lot of the fights though, like with people that weren't him, were just chef's kiss. Absolutely amazing. Um, so Lawrence Fishburne's also in this. They really didn't do much with him. So from what I hear, they're going to be making a fifth one. Maybe he'll be more in that. How that's going to work out, I don't know. We'll also talk of a little bit of theories in the spoiler section. Um, let's see, who else was in there? Scott Adkins. So his character, um, Killer Harkin. So, man, that. So the first part of that scene is one that I felt was just like way too, a little too over the top. I still got a certain sense of enjoyment about it, but at the same time, I'm just like, man, this seems really contrived and like kind of stupid for like the whole villain thing, but whatever. But the second part, the actual fight, like holy shit. And I'll say this, like the fight scenes when it comes to choreography, um, the music. Oh my god, the music. It was just there. It was so good, and it never really stops. Like the action after the first scene, once it starts, you're just on a full blown whirlwind of just action and death. The body count on this film is insane. Like I lost count to be honest, but it's in the hundreds. I'm willing to wager because there's a lot of deaths, a lot of cool deaths, a lot of brutal deaths, and again, like there, you need to go prepared with a certain spect of a certain amount of suspension of non-belief, because I mean, like again, some of the falls he takes, the amount of times he's been shot, just it's it gets to be like really ridiculous. But if you go in with that mindset and that's what this world is, then I mean it's not actually that big of a deal. It's it actually adds to the fun in my opinion. And yeah, if you're going to have fun and not take it seriously, but just to enjoy the action and be entertained, like you're gonna have a good time with this film. I had a blast with this film. I'll tell you that right now. So, Lance Reddick's character was also in this. This is like one of his last roles, unfortunately. May he rest in peace. Uh, and yeah, we'll get in that more in spoilers. But yeah, it's so kind of an emotional thing there. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of friends he has, and I don't know, like I feel that John Wick kind of inadvertently screws over a lot of people um, who are his friends in this place, but well, only really one that I can actually go like, and we'll get in that more in again spoilers. But yeah, I had an absolute blast with this one. And I like how it just sort of does its does its thing and does it very successfully, in my opinion. Again, my only complaint about it being it is a bit long, and there are a few parts that are just like what, like even a certain sense of ridiculousness has limits. Like there comes a point where you're just like you're totally pulled out, and yeah. So what would I ultimately give this movie? This movie is, in my opinion, I want to give it a 10, but again, just I'm gonna give this movie a 9. Um, it was nonstop fun. I enjoyed it almost all the way around. Even the parts where it's just it was too much for me. Like it didn't completely bring me out. Like I wasn't just like ugh, but at the same time, it did kind of, and yeah, and it was just it seemed really long. But yeah, anyway, that is it for the non-spoiler section of this review. So I'll be back in a little bit with the spoiler section review, and we'll get into it and sort of break this down. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, so yeah, 9 out of 10 on this one. Anyway, I hope uh, I'll be back for the spoiler section. So see you then, guys. Hey guys, it is Rapmark here. So we are going into the spoiler section of John Wick Chapter 4. Uh, so this movie takes off sort of on the tail of the last one, where he's kind of in hiding. He's in with the Brewery King, played by Lawrence Fishburne, which I had hoped would be a character in more of a character in this movie, but is not. But apparently, there's going to be a fifth one, so uh, maybe he'll be in that. We'll see. But yeah, just to put the whole thing to rest, like even though we don't see a body, so there is a possibility he's not dead. It is implied that John Wick has died. Um, so yeah, but anyway, to start out, he goes and he kills the elder, essentially. So, launches a direct attack against one of the high members of the high table, uh, kills him, and that's where you go into the marquee. Um, I'm not gonna try to pronounce that. Vincent Grandma. That's all I'll say. Is just the his first name and his last name. The in between, like, yeah, no. Anyway, he is given every resource to essentially hunt down and kill John Wick. So, uh, essentially, what he does is the Winston, uh, he because he failed to assassinate John Wick, he has taken away everything, deconsecrating the hotel and blows it up, and then he kills uh, Lance Riddick's character. Both of these from the first one, it's just like even though he shot him, um, and it's just like why leave him alive? And uh, the Marquis essentially says something to the effect of, the ones left alive are, cowards or turncoats. Uh, so yeah, so this makes him very pissed off. Um, and then after this, he has a meeting with Kane, who is a blind or tired assassin, to kill John, which he reluctantly does because they have his daughter under surveillance. I don't think they actually like capture her. I think it's just like they will kill her or do something with her if he doesn't do this. So, of course, it's either let John Wick live or let your daughter live, and so obviously he's going to choose his daughter. Um, and it's just, yeah, it's fucked up, to be honest. Um, and that's sort of how this movie starts. It's one kill, and then the aftermath of everything from part three and the execution of the elder. So, and this is part that I didn't understand why. So he hides out at the Osaka Continental, which is run by his friend. And what I didn't understand is why he had to go there specifically. Again, why couldn't he have gone underground again with the Bowery King? I don't know, because I mean, he knows they're after him. Like, this place is not going to be safe. As soon as they get wind of him, it's going to cost, his friend like everything, and it does. So I don't know. Like, I wish there'd been a scene or a line of dialogue that sort of explains why he is going here. Like, I understand they're old friends, but in the situation he finds himself in, and knowing what will happen to his friend if they found out, which does end up happening, it just, I don't know. It didn't make sense to me, and I'm just like, I mean, the fight scene is cool, but the whole reasoning of that scene even existing, it just seemed a little bit ridiculous. So anyway, so the Marquis Men comes, and with Kane, and it's funny. They immediately start fighting, and like all of Koji's friends. So John Wick's friend Koji, I think that's how it's pronounced. Forgive me if it's not. They're using swords and arrows. It's actually like, it's absurd, but it's the kind of absurd that I was signed up for. It's the kind of absurd that I'm just like, I can get behind this. This is great, is what this is. And like, while they're fighting, Kane's just sitting there. He's just chilling, eating stuff, and he's just like, the Marquis second in command It's just like, Joyous, we're losing a lot of guys. And he's just like, yeah. Yeah, it's just like, well, Marquis screwed me over too, so I'm gonna screw him over by costing him a lot of guys doing this. But yeah, so they deconsecrate it. They prepare to blow it up and kill everyone in it. Um, but yeah, he does finally join in. It's mostly on himself. So this fight scene was amazing. So John Wick versus Kane. Um, so Kane goes in and he like throws like devices on the wall, and like my first thought is like, are these bombs? Like what is this? And no, it turns out that they are sort of doorbell devices, so that when someone crashes, breaks line of sight, he knows exactly where they are. Uh, and yeah, so that it's an interesting way of how to move, because again, like him being blind, you're just like, how the hell can this guy do anything? But no, like it looks super cool, uh, but it gets really nuts toward the end of the movie. Like in this one, like it kind of makes sense because again, it's mostly close quarters, so he can hear. He uses the doorbell devices. But those things are never brought in again. And there's a scene at the end going up the stairs where he is like a sword in one hand, a pistol in the other. He is fucking shooting with pinpoint accuracy with a pistol while avoiding bullets and swords with no aid whatsoever. It's and I'm just like, I mean, as cool as this looks, this took it a step too far, in my opinion. Some people may not agree with that, but this is my opinion. It was a bit too far on that. And that was toward the end. But anyway, um, so after that fight, John does manage to get away. So both the Koji and his daughter, they get shot. I mean, they're still holding their own. But then at the end, Koji runs into Kane, and in order to allow John Wick time to escape, he fights with Kane, and it's reluctant. He doesn't want to. Kane doesn't want to kill him, but it's kind of like he has to, because he's defending his friend. Anyway. So yeah, he beats him down, kills him, and his daughter's like gonna try to grab the sword, try to avenge him. It's just like, live, and he walks off. He walks off wounded. She walks off wounded, and that's that. And the Osaka Continental is just in ruins. So, oh my gosh, I almost forgot. Mr. Nobody, so a bounty hunter, runs in because I think they run into each other again. Yeah, they do. So he breaks up the fight because he wants the bounty to be higher. I think it's like when the movie starts, like 18 million. He wants it to 23 million. And the thing is he just keeps upping and upping and upping and upping. Like there's one point in a barn where he's talking with the Marquis where he's just like, I want it to be 30 million. Agreed. And then another one where, John's trying to get to the duel, which I'll talk about later. And it goes up to 40,000. And I mean, all this terrible stuff happens to him. Like the Marquis stabs his hand. It's just like, you take the knife away and it shows you're not dedicated to the cause. Whereas if you pull the knife through your hand, then it shows you're dedicated to the cause. And yeah, I'll raise the bounty. And it's just, oh no, it's super. It's a little weird. And also, Mr. Nobody has a dog. It is adorable. Obviously, not very realistic. I mean, the dog itself is real, but I mean, some of the stunts it's doing are obviously not very realistic. Um, but yeah, it didn't play as much of a role in it as the trailers I think had it play in. I mean, it looked cool. It was part of some pretty cool scenes, but the trailers I think kind of misrepresented the part to play this dog had. So anyway, so yeah. Anyway, so we go to back to New York where he's visiting his wife's gravestone. And I know they're talking about it. Well, that's later in the movie, but anyway. So Winston, and Winston, he wants to get his stuff back. He's vengeful. He lost his right hand man, and he lost everything. Everything's gone. It was just stripped away because he couldn't kill John Wick. So now he's going to try to get it all back. So he essentially says he can get out by challenging the Marquis to a duel. And it will free John of all obligations, everything. But he can only do so at the request of a crime family. So he has to go back to his old crime family, the Ruska Roma crime syndicate. And that's in Berlin. And they say, they trap him and they're going to kill him, but they're just, as soon as he explains his plan, they're just like, okay, well, if you kill a Harkin, who murdered her father, who was the head of the Roma before, then they will readmit him and then submit the request for the duel. So this part, the first part was just so essentially they made it out as though they had captured him and they're turning him in. And there's guns everywhere with people who want to kill John Wick. There's bounty hunters, there's guards, there's freaking Kane is there shows up at some point. Mr. Nobody's there. So what do? They decide to play cards to decide who gets to do what. And of course the guy cheats. And then John Wick takes a card, throws it, slashes his neck. And man, so that part, I mean, I kind of get it, but it was a little bit on the much side, in my opinion. I don't feel it needed all of that, but I mean, I guess that's the world. So anyway, but then after that, it's great. Like, it's this nightclub. There's people dancing, and suddenly there's this fight. And my gosh, so Killer Harkin, so he's played by Scott Adkins, but man, with a lot of prosthetics. This guy is a big guy. This guy is chubby. He is, and you wouldn't think, but man, like, you see him doing roundhouse kicks. You see him fucking jumping all over the place, throwing sick ass crosses with his fists. Like, holy crap. And as ridiculous as it looks, it's one of those things that's just like, I'm all about it. This is what I came here for. This is what I want to see, and it's amazing. Like, and the funny part is like, some of the crowd reacts, like there's some of them, but everyone else is just like dancing. I mean, I kind of wonder if it's just like, this is like a high table bar. It's just like, oh, this is just another day for most of these people here. Yeah. So he gets him, rips his teeth out. Man, it is crazy. It is super crazy. It is probably one of the best fight scenes like in this whole franchise, to be honest. I thought it was great. So anyway, with that, John challenges the Marquis, and Winston is John's second. And he, again, with the stipulation that if he wins, the New York Continental will be rebuilt. He is reinstated as manager if he wins. He does inform, the Marquis does inform Winston that if he loses, both him and John are going to die. So in Paris, John the Marquis decided on the duel's parameters using the table's emissary, which is played by the one, the only John Clancy, I believe. Yes. Or no. I don't know why I said John Clancy. It's Clancy Brown. John Wick. Yeah. Clancy Brown. There we go. I'm saying John Wick so many times I'm like throwing myself off. Anyway, so Clancy Brown is in this as the emissary, and he does great in the role. I love him in everything he does. Everything, like, since Starship Troopers, Shawshank Redemption, like, I love him in everything he does. And the fact that he's actually done video games as well, Detroit Become Human, like, I love this guy. This guy's great. So I can't say anything bad about Clancy Brown. He is amazing, and I love him. So anyway, instead of doing it himself, the Marquis nominates Kane to do it for him. It's just like, I don't want to do this. And he's just like, if you don't do this, then we'll kill your daughter. If you do this, you're free of everything. You get to go nothing, zero zip. You're free. And they have a certain amount of time, and he's just like, fuck, or yeah, Kane's just like, fuck this, but he agrees, obviously. Now, if John doesn't show up at the appointed time, John and Winston will both be executed. So, the Marquis is going to try to do everything to prevent John from getting there. So he lets everybody know, every bounty hunter, every crime family, everybody, and it gets nuts. So before all this starts, John goes to the Bowery King and gets a new pistol and a new ballistic suit. So Marquis ups the bounty to 26 million. And man, you're seeing everything, like car chases. You see him get hit by cars, shot multiple times, making these ridiculous shots, explosions. Like the ballistic suits in the first one, you show that if it hits you, like, it won't kill you, but it will still hurt you. By this point in the franchise, we're just like you'll see some of the bullets stop him, but so many of them are just like, pew, pew, just ping right off. And it's just like nothing happens. So, I mean, I get it, but it's something I had to at least say something on, because they're kind of cutting corners with it. But anyway, so he finally gets to the final stairwell, where there's like 216 or something. I forget the exact amount. But yeah, Mr. Nobody is there while he's going there, before we get to the stairwell. And John is attacked by Mr. Nobody and the Marquis second in command. And at some point, the dog is almost killed. And John Wick has a chance to either kill Mr. Nobody or shoot the second in command and It doesn't kill him, but uh, prevent him from killing the dog. So he does, saves the dog, and Mr. Nobody just like, all right, he's a good dude, and he's on John's side for the rest of the movie, essentially. So after this, he goes to the stairs. He starts going up the stairs. He's like fighting all these assassins and everybody, and the Marquis' second in command comes, punches him, and kicks him down, and then he stops, and then the guy kicks him again, sends him all the way down the stairs, and it's just like, all right, that seemed unnecessary, but I appreciate the symbolism, I guess. Uh, and then afterwards, Kane he shows up and he's just like, you know what, I've been screwed over too. You just really need to make it to the top of these stairs. And so they fight together. And this is the part I was talking about where it's so weird. Like, with no aid whatsoever, literally Kane is dodging bullets. He's dodging multiple swings with knives and swords. At some point, there's a rocket launcher. I mean, Mr. Nobody's like coming out there. It's just so ridiculous. And another thing I'll say this is just like, no one has a sniper rifle in this movie, which, I mean, there would be no movie like if that was the case, obviously, but it's just like there are certain things that are just not well explained and leaves you thinking. If you're the kind of person that like thinks about these kind of things in movies, just like, why didn't anyone just use a sniper rifle on him? Whatever. But yeah, Mr. Nobody has one, and yeah, so they fight, and they finally take Marquis' second in command down. Mr. Nobody is just like, nuts! And the dog grabs him by the nuts and is just like tearing his nuts off with his teeth before he finally gets killed. And it's just, it was, that part was cut, that part was pretty funny. So anyway, so they get to the duel, and it's essentially pistols, because that's what was done when they first met. They decided the place, time, and method. So it's with pistols. So they go at 30 paces. It wasn't 30 paces that I counted, but I could be wrong. It could be just another way of measuring something. I don't know. But then they take a shot. So they both nick each other. And then they move forward 10 paces to 20. Kane gets blasted in the shoulder, whereas John Wick gets blasted in the stomach. And then there's a third shot in which, again, John Wick gets hit. I'm trying to remember if that's where he gets hit in the stomach, or if it's the shoulder he gets. But yeah, anyway, both Kane and John get hit twice, but then Kane shoots, and John goes down, and the Marquis he a little bitch that he is just like, I'm going to take the coup de grace. And he swaps places, and then Winston points out that John hasn't fired his third bullet yet, and the Marquis is just like, shoots him in the head. He's dead, and that's it. That's the end. So anyway, the Harbinger gives both Kane and John their freedom, and Winston is reinstated. John collapses on the staircase, and dies. I mean, they're making a fifth movie, so I don't know how they're gonna play that off, but he does die. And honestly, I hope he actually is dead because this movie is such a great send off for him and his character. Anyway, back in New York, Winston the Bowery King say goodbye to John in his grave that says loving husband and his wife Helen, which says loving wife. And that's that. So there is a post-credit scene where Kane returns to Paris to reunite with the daughter, but then is approached by Akira, who pulls out a pocket knife, and yeah, that's where it cuts off. So, man, such a good one. Like again, the story is it's it is what it is, but man, the action and again the performances, uh, the music as well were just so amazing in this movie, and I love it. So yeah, solid 9 out of 10 for this movie. I know it's out of theaters by now, but yeah, if you want to see it in streaming, you definitely should because this is an actually really really great movie. So anyway, those are my thoughts for John Wick Chapter 4. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. See ya.